Hi, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. There in Nepal, particularly in Kathmandu, there's been some large, violent protests. At least 19 people have been killed. Buildings are on fire. It's just amazing. And it stems from a combination of public outrage over a government imposed social media ban and broader grievances against the systematic corruption, especially among the political elite. They're saying that these protests, largely driven by Generation Z, escalated into violent clashes, leading to significant political consequences, including the resignation of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. The Nepalese government banned 26 social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, and X, after these programs failed to comply with a mandate requiring local contracts, grievances, handlers, and self regulation mechanisms. The ban escalated this last week and was seen as an attempt to control free speech and suppress dissident, sparking widespread anger, particularly among tech savvy youth. The ban was lifted today, September 9th, following the deadly protests, but not before fueling significant unrest. Protests were amplified by the viral Nepo Kids, also known as Nepo Babies campaign, which highlighted the lavish lifestyles of politicians' children, allegedly funded by the corrupt practices. This campaign, initially online platform like TikTok and Reddit, spilled onto the streets with protests demanding accountability for systematic corruption. The protests were predominantly led by Nepal's Generation Z, who used social media to organize and mobilize. Then yesterday, September 8th, thousands gathered in Kathmandu, particularly at Maytire, to protest the social media ban and corruption. The demonstrations turned violent, and with at least 19 deaths and hundreds injured, as police used tear gas, rubber bullets, and reportedly live ammunitions. Protesters targeted key sites like the Parliament complex, setting fire to buildings and private residence of the Prime Minister Oli. It's also reflecting deep frustration with the political elite. Beyond the social media ban, the protest reflects decades of frustration with corruption, lack of job opportunities, and political mismanagement. Posts on X highlight sentiment of a corrupt government with uneducated leaders with no vision for the country, reasoning with the youth call for systematic change. The unrest led to significant political fallout, with both the Prime Minister and the President resigning on September 9th today amid chaos and curfew. Protesters set fire to government buildings, police stations, and homes of politicians in Nepal's capital as unrest continues for the second day. Besides the resignation of the Prime Minister and the President, several other top officials have also stepped down. Currently, security forces are scarce, and they are not the only ones, evidently, who have guns and weapons. Some protesters were seen throwing live grenades into government buildings. Civilians have been photographed carrying assault rifles. Two airports have been damaged, and also the hotels of Hilton and Barnabas. The house of a former Prime Minister, Jahal Naf Connell, was set on fire today, while his wife was inside. She was severely burned, evidently, and evidently the army came in and took her to some medical facility. The home of the prime minister that resigned, Oli, his home was also torched. Nepal's scarcity of jobs has driven millions of young people to seek work in other countries for generations. More than 1,000 young men and women leave the country every day to serve long-term contracts, many in the oil-rich countries of the Persian Gulf and Malaysia. Bailendra Shah, the mayor of Kathmandu, emerged 2 days ago. He's supposedly trying to save his own skin, I would say. That's my opinion. as a supporter of the so-called Gen Z protests. He said he would not march, though, with them on the grounds that at 35, he is too old to be part of the Gen Z, but wrote in a Facebook post that he was on the side of their spontaneous movement. Shaw wrote on a post, evidently, he said, "Dear Gen Z, the resignation of your murderer has come. Now be restrained." He urged the protesters to stop destroying property, negotiate with the army chief, and insist on dissolving the seated parliament. The Trubhavan International Airport, Nepal's main international airport, has been closed as smoke from the fires covered Kathmandu Valley. There's zero visibility around their airport, so they closed and canceled all flights. Flights scheduled to land there were diverted to other countries. The Prime Minister, who resigned today, K.P. Sharma Oli, was elected in 2024 for the fifth time as Nepal's top official. He led the Communist Party of Nepal, known as UML, the second largest party in parliament. He had been known for pro-China policies, and it's not clear who is going to replace him. The Supreme Court building and a special anti-corruption court were also set on fire. Smoke was also seen pouring out of the Parliament building. With the closure of the international airport, many tourists are stranded there. One British tourist who was stuck there called his local British embassy, and their advice to him was to sign up for email alerts. He said it was not very helpful when the city was burning around him. Evidently, protesters originally went straight to the airport to block the entrance so ministers couldn't escape. From what I can gather, many of the tourists are sheltering in place, staying in their hotels and hostels. I can't help but think how social media is often used as a distraction. People don't know what's really going on. But in this case, they shut it down because it was being used to organize protests. So they shut it down. The government did shut it down. At least 3 people have been reported to have been killed today, Tuesday, bringing the total to 22 deaths since the unrest began. Also, it's been said that 209 people were admitted to hospitals for injuries. Of those, 186 had been discharged. So far, the protesters have not spelled out their demands, apart from rallying under the banner of anti-corruption calls. The protests appear spontaneous, and there seems to be no organized leadership. The Nepalese army is respected, supposedly, and they could play a role in bringing order. While they have fought a long civil war with the Maoists, they would be hesitant, they say, in managing law and order, which is essentially the job of the police and other security agencies. Now, Maoism is a form of communism developed by Mao Zedong. It is a doctrine to capture state power through the combination of armed insurgency, mass mobilization, and strategic alliance. The Maoists also use propaganda and disinformation against state institutions and other components of their insurgency doctrine. Unlike the uprising in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, here people seem to be unhappy with all the political class and for their mismanagement of the country over the decades. Nepal has had 14 prime ministers since 2008, when the Maoist rebels joined the mainstream and the country became a republic. So I wonder if the Chinese and not the CIA, or maybe they're both there, stirring the unrest. I don't know. China and, the Maoists, and the CIA. What are your thoughts? Please put your comments down below. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you later. God bless you.